All right, hello, welcome to the Southbound Sports Show. I'm your host, Richie Leahy, here with my co-host, Maddie B. I traveled up to your neck of the woods last weekend, and I will say, immediately lost my voice, man. I'm going from where I'm outside, taking some wellness breaks, going on walks, doing a little bit of jogging and stuff, and it's like 80-something degrees. I get up in Pennsylvania, which I was going to name this show, which I didn't. Maybe I still have time. I was going to name it Fall Football Weddings because, who gets married during football season, right? So I have to go up, and the first night I'm there, the temperature drops to 45 degrees, and my voice is gone. And I'm like, this is going to be an eventful weekend, people trying to talk to you at a wedding, and your voice is gone. And then people are going to be like, what, are you sick, bro? It's like, no, it's freezing cold up here. I should have brought a scarf. I would have looked like an artist, man. Growing my hair out, wearing a scarf. They wouldn't have known what to do. But that's my first beef. It's like, first off, don't get a fall wedding. The leaves weren't even changed yet, which was surprising to me because when I drove up through West Virginia and Virginia, theirs looked like they were changed more. And then I get into, Bob Nutting? Doesn't he own Seven Springs? Yeah. I'm up into his area, and the leaves are still green. So I was like, you could have had this wedding in June.
Well, it's also a crapshoot because it also could have snowed, so...
Yeah, that's also true. Because if it's getting down to 45, I was thinking, hey, if it gets any colder, you might have to wrap these pipes. Don't want any water spillage, man. I don't even know if I could call for help because my voice was gone. I finally got it back, and I drove home Sunday thinking, well, it feels like it's back. Of course, I had no voice for the wedding. Then I get up Sunday, and I finally came home, and it's back, and I'm like, great. It's only when I'm in Pennsylvania. It was like the Lord wanted me not to spread the good word of Michigan football where I'm too close to Penn State land. So if you're a recruit listening to this, just remember, the weather's cold there at Penn State, and there's only farmland around you. So really nothing to do. Right? I mean, I guess Eli Manning can come to camp. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Not only did he look super old with that fake disguise, but it was do something with his face so that you know that that's not Eli Manning. He looked exactly like a Manning brother. I would have been like, Cooper, is that you? I might not have thought that it was Eli, but his family's in every commercial now. I feel like I've seen that Cooper commercial with, what's the guy from Curb Your Enthusiasm, Leon?
Yeah.
Yeah, so him in there, I'm like, buddy, you look exactly like that with just a mustache and long hair. So I thought the makeup guy could have did a better job. ESPN must really still be hitting those budget cuts. And then I thought, well, maybe they wanted it to look fake. But it was pretty funny. I liked it anyway. That's my little intro to the show. How was the weekend for you, Matt?
Yeah, not too bad.
How'd you guys turn out? I didn't get to watch, unfortunately. Wedding duties,
Understandable. As far as the game was concerned, we ended up losing 28-12. Once again to another co-op school. So, as we were kind of processing the game and just the way the season's going overall right now, we're 1-3, but with the teams that we're playing, we have not played a school that's similar to us yet. So, the first 2 weeks of the year, we played schools that were up in class, and the last 2 weeks we've had schools that have co-ops. And when you're looking at the schools that are having mergers, when you're in a lower class, if you just pick up one athlete from the other school or one lineman can be the difference. It definitely showed. And so as I was game planning, it kind of dawned on me, this is we're be hitting midway point of the season. We're into homecoming week, and we're finally playing a school that is like us, that is playing with just the kids from the community that we're playing.
Yeah, I was talking to a couple of people over the weekend, being in the area, and just hearing about the other co-ops, I wonder, is that the future? And then we were also, your team came up because we talked about the stadium expansion a few weeks ago on the show, and they were saying like they heard about the expansion. What would happen if your team had to co-op to another school? How do you decide who's the home school? Is it whoever has the better facilities?
I think it may. There's a couple different factors. It may be based off of what conference, because like for the schools that are similar to our size, the two big ones would be the conference we're in, the ICC, and then I would say probably the Heritage Conference would be the other one. And
is that the one Portage joined?
That's the one Portage joined. So like,
is Chestnut or is Cambria Heights in that one?
No, Cambria Heights. Yes, they are in that one now.
Because didn't they beat Portage like already this year?
Yeah,
I've been kind of confused the area, man. I used to know the conferences. Now it's like,
well, the Laurel Highlands went and they've expanded into a lot bigger of a range. Like I think they have like a lot more pulling from different areas in there.
Yeah, it used to be just the bigger schools, and then like I think when I was at Penn Cambria, like the size went up and down. Like I think we dropped. We're up at AAA and then went to AA or something, and then some sports we're still in. It's hard to like keep track of what they're doing. So like I can only imagine going forward, like if more schools contract, like do they just do it region based? I hear that a lot down here, which is why I was asking, because they're talking about like constantly redistricting. What are they going to do? Where I live now, I'm like in the zone of 3 different schools. Like no joke, if I go for my morning jog, I can see graduating flags on the same street from like 3 or 4 different high schools.
Oh, wow.
And I guess you can just pick because like we're kind of on the line. And then, I mean, I guess there's 1 or 2 charter schools now. I don't know if they were high schools, but then I know distinctively you could pick between 3 of the local high schools to kind of go to, just because they're not there. And then they're talking about adding a 4th, which I wonder if that would get rid of the choice. And then, I mean, buses, man, if you pick like the one school that's further away, one of the parents told me that their kid gets picked up at like 6 a.m. So you're on the bus for like over an hour just getting to school. Like, could you imagine? Because even to get on the bus at 6 a.m.
And that's why
insane.
There was a school that my wife works at that with them being a charter school, a lot of parents are opting into that type of programming because with school mergers and things like that, the area that they're at, they have to be on the bus for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. Like on top of the regular school day, you're packing on an extra 4 hours. Like it gives you no time for extracurriculars, for anything. It's like you get home and you're just exhausted.
Well, that's how I brought it up, because I was thinking in terms of distance to practice. Like if it takes you an hour to get in the morning, what about after football practice if you're at that school? Like it's only going to be just as long. Excuse me. Because I don't know like what else they would do. You're going to be on the bus that long in the morning. Maybe it's not as much, or the parents are going to drive that far. Like if it's taking the bus an hour or something, maybe it's a 30, 40-minute drive. That's still a ton to go to school, man.
Pre-game, I was talking to their head coach, and I asked him, like, how does that work as far as managing 2 schools? And he just said basically the kids get out and it pushes their practice time back. And so they're like done at practice at like 6. So so then like the kids still have to leave from the main school to go back to their home district and factor in like that extra commute time, and now you're looking at it running a lot later.
And you'll have to tell me if this is true, but I heard to decide who gets to stay the head coach, they have like a mud wrestling tournament or something.
If that's the case, then I'll probably be opting out.
Why? You have a wrestling outfit though. You have a cowboy hat situation going. I seem to remember that. You could bring it out.
Wow, then your memory is really good, because that's a dated reference.
Vince McMahon, he's from the area. So you can call him for pointers, even though he's not allowed to be WWE now. You can still call him for your mud wrestling bout. All the biggest donors come in, and then they see who has the best facilities, who is going to host the school. And then when no one wants it, then it's just an awkward standing there covered in mud. Be like, you be the coach. Because I still think some schools have coaches that don't want to be the coach, right?
I don't know. I mean, anymore, I think
they have the dream.
I think the pandemic put the kibosh on a lot of that. That if you're in it, you're in it because you want to be there. Because for a lot of the political stuff that also goes along with coaching, I think that if you're really not, if your heart isn't into it, there's nothing that's keeping you there.
Yeah, that's probably true. Because once you get to a certain point, I would think that you would have to be there.
And I see, like, just the turnover from year to year in our area. There's a lot of coaches that when you talk with them about moving to different schools or just getting out of coaching in general, they're like, I just can't deal with all the extra stuff. And it ends up like, some coaches can handle it for a little bit, and other ones it just wears on you.
Well, that's why some coaches were like doing multiple sports, like, hey, I'm going to be the basketball coach and then the baseball coach. It's like, bro, how? Why do you have that much time? Because like now with like year-round stuff, I
would literally get divorced if I even had thought of that.
You don't say that on the show. What if you need to pull that out one day? You can have that in your back pocket. Well, now I'm the track coach, the baseball coach, and the basketball coach.
By the way, I'm also coaching basketball and baseball now. So.
At 3 different schools, so I have to drive a bit.
I will literally never be home.
That'd be sweet. Sweet gig. What are your odds to make the playoffs? Because you've made the playoffs every year, haven't you?
Sans the COVID year, we've made the playoffs. I think it's still within reach right now, but we definitely have to get on the right side of winning. And there's a couple games that I don't like. Our 10th game of the schedule right now is a crossover with the Heritage. So based off of how we win can determine who we're playing. It could be a favorable matchup, but we won't know that until a little bit further to see where we're at.
All right. Well, good luck. We'll be checking back in, and hopefully I'll be sharing it this week with Southland Sports community. We'll get some people watching again from afar, or just go to the game. Is it a home game? I don't even know who you're playing yet.
It is homecoming, so we're playing Shannon Valley.
So you'll be dressed in your best.
Dressed for success.
You could always, if you keep having some more losses, just start dressing so like it doesn't look like you belong there, like wear like the flag guy outfit, so it looks like you're just on the chain gang. That'd be a good move. Then they're yelling at the other guys.
Just start wearing a uniform, shoulder pads, and helmet, blend in with the players.
No, just wear the chain outfit, because that way the peer parents on their side will be like complaining. They'll say, "Why is that chain guy helping out on the other's team?" Who is that guy? That should be illegal. You can only have so many coaches down there. This is a Nick Saban's rehab team. Let's get into some NFL stuff. The 49ers completely luck out, dude. Because other teams have been able to make a move for Jimmy Garoppolo. And I've said, Garoppolo is still good. Could you imagine him on the Steelers? Trey Lance breaks his ankle, right? And everyone's like, oh, the 49ers, they look pretty good so far this year. Garoppolo comes right in like he never even left. Just winning, going out, shaking hands. He's like, yeah, I'm the guy again. I could have left. I've been speculating trades for him the entire time. And I've said the 49ers are going to be in a sticky situation. It's going to be different than the Steelers where people are like, well, can our other quarterback be worse than what we're having here? Where the 49ers are like, maybe he'll get better. Maybe Lance will start to like really spin up. But we also have Garoppolo. Maybe we just need to put him back in. And unfortunately, I hate to see any player get injured. especially you're sending me like snuff films out here of people getting injured, bones sticking out. Like I need to see that. And then also ESPN. That was college, right?
Yeah.
I think that was the NC State game.
That was your Wolf Pack.
Why are you zooming in? Why are you zooming in and replaying it slow-mo? Like, hey, let's see why his leg flopped around like that. They had to have seen it. I saw it on the first, like, real-time action. Because his leg, like, flipped over. It was the Texas Tech guy. So if you're curious, I'm sure you can search NC State, Texas Tech, broken leg from this year's game, 2022. And you'll see it. But the guy got rolled, and then he was still kind of in the pile, so he rolled over, and you could see, like, you know how a guy either completely tears ACL or whatever, and then his leg kind of just, like, flops in the wind. Not like a McCaffrey injury where he's, like, probably just a little stiff. You could tell, like, well, that's a serious injury. And then ESPN's like, well, we don't really know what happened there other than that looked pretty bad. Let's slow-mo it and zoom in. And then you can see the bone sticking out. It's like, what are you doing? Why?
I have no idea what's going on. His leg is not intact.
Do we have another angle of that? Because I really didn't see where it broke. It's like, oh my gosh, guys, stop that. The guy has a family. Don't show that. So Lance gets injured just like that guy. Hate seeing it. Hope both those guys are okay, especially when it's bad like that. Sometimes if it's a clean break, it might be easier than like an Alex Smith, where he had all those surgeries or whatever.
Yeah.
So you just hope that they can both recover. I'm surprised, it's an ankle for Lance, so he's done for the year. And now they get Garoppolo. It's almost like they're back now. Now, to me, I didn't have faith in Lance, but I'm looking at the standings, and I'm thinking, all right, I think I sent them to you, but I was like, all right, like, what are we looking at? Oh, no, I sent you the division rankings. But I'm thinking that the 49ers could be the favorite out there in the West now. I haven't been impressed kind of what I've seen by the Rams. I don't know what the hell they're doing, right? It's like, hey, what do you want to do on a primetime after the Super Bowl? Let's go out and get our asses kicked? Sure. The Niners are the only team with a positive point differential. The Rams are like -17. The Seahawks are -19. And the Cardinals are -17. So they're they're losing by more than a touchdown. It's not like the Vikings have they're 1-1 too, but they have a point differential of -1. So like their games are close, they're competitive. The Rams got destroyed on opening week, right? So then they battle back against the Falcons. And if it wasn't for Mariota, whom I'm going to save this for a little bit for fantasy, but I picked him up thinking, this is a big brain move, right? The Rams looked awful. And then they get 2 interceptions and negate his points for me. And I'm like, why? And he was going for the win. So like if he didn't throw that other pick, I was like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? And I'm traveling, so I'm like not fully paying attention to the game. So I was like, man, that one hurt, not so much because I won in fantasy anyway, but that one just hurt my pride because I thought it was a great pickup. Much like my Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense, but I'll get to that in a second. The 49ers right now, to me with Garoppolo, look the best in the West. They just do. I think he fits more their style. I don't know why they want to change. It's almost like when Harbaugh was there, and I know I bring up Harbaugh a lot, but and everyone kind of blows off the Kaepernick thing, right? But now my voice is starting to act up, probably because I haven't talked to let it heal. So who knows how this show will go. But Kaepernick came in and he was kind of like the wild card, right? He could run it, he could throw it, or he could be super inaccurate with it. That's kind of how Trey Lance is with me. Maybe he's more talented, but we really don't know. And so, excuse me while I die. Hopefully I cut this out of the real show. But I never really got to see that from Lance, right? So when Garoppolo comes in, he's more of the steady hand. He is Alex Smith. And Alex Smith went to the Chiefs, and he was successful there until they got Mahomes ready to go. So I want to see where we're going to be able to go with him. Lance was only 48% completion rate, Matt. through 2 games. His passer rating was 55. He had interception, 2 sacks, and that's sack yards lost. I didn't know what the last stat was. But Garoppolo comes in. He's bringing 100 rating, 61 completion percentage. Like, he's already passing better in the game that he played compared to Trey Lance at the beginning anyway. So that just makes me wonder, like, do the 49ers use this injury, unfortunately, to reevaluate their offense? Right? Didn't they sign Garoppolo for just 1 year?
They did, and I think he was betting on himself and thinking he was going to pull more in free agency, and I think has the potential to do that. I think when you look at the NFL, I kind of talked at the other end of it that don't shop Jimmy G. Like, there's nothing else that trade that moving him out was going to do, because I think you have to have a quality backup, because the way that the league is, even for as much as they're really trying to prevent quarterbacks from taking hits, they're still going. The majority of them still get banged up over the course of a season, and if you don't have somebody there to back up your quarterback, you're really hurting yourself, especially because the way that the league is driven, it's so quarterback heavy and pass heavy that you have to be in this position to be able to manage the game. And it was a smart move to try to start Lance, because if he really takes off and showed growth, then going into the offseason, if you feel like, oh, we missed, we missed a Super Bowl by no ground game, then you go find the linemen and the running backs that you need in the offseason. You use those for trade value and get those last couple pieces. But you don't trade it away knowing, not really guaranteeing how far away you are.
I just think that their styles are too different. That's why I tried to bring up the Alex Smith and Kaepernick comparison, because everyone was saying, like, Harbaugh, your offense was built for Alex Smith. Go back to him. Like, everyone was shocked when he stuck with Kaepernick, and they almost won the Super Bowl. I mean, honestly, they were that one pass away. If he was accurate with that final pass, they probably would have won. And after a big comeback. And so with him and Lance, it's almost like, all right, what's going to be the difference? Like, Lance is running for like 67 yards, He's averaging 4.2 yards a carry. Garoppolo's averaging 1.3 yards a carry. It's probably just him scrambling and then running out of bounds. So, like, it's just a different game. And that's why I really like you said, you need to have the backup quarterback. I really like the direction that the Browns went in, because, they let Baker Mayfield go, but they bring in Brissett, and they're trying to, like, get a guy that's similar to Watson. Kind of like the Ravens are like, hey, we're going to get all guys like Lamar Jackson, and that's going to be our team. If he goes down, what was the one? Like, the Titans are rolling out Malik Willis after Tannehill, and I'm like, these are two opposite dudes. Did you see that package they put in?
Yeah.
They're getting killed. And I've had a feeling that my boy Hassan Haskins is going to be involved more, because my next topic on here is that Derrick Henry so far has been a dud this year. And I've been waiting. I know he had a touchdown yesterday. That's pretty much all he had. And the offense hasn't looked good. And so I'm wondering, like, what's going to happen? At first, they had Hassan Haskins returning kicks, and I'm thinking, if he never returned kicks at Michigan, that's probably not a good move of him returning kicks like in the NFL, right? It's not like you heard coming out of camp like Michigan's fastest running back. Like Blake Corum was Michigan's fastest running back. He's still on the team. If he went to the NFL and was returning kicks, I would say, oh, okay, I'm not surprised. Haskins is like our power back. So for him to be returning kicks, it's like they're just expecting him to wrecking ball it up in there. But I thought he was very similar to Henry, and I wondered, like, if Henry doesn't come back from this injury, even though it's just a broken foot or whatever, is he going to be the guy that fits that mold for him just to take over? And then they bring in Malik Willis, and then let's go ahead and try to run some of those, like, spread reads or whatever, and really get both of those guys in. And so I wonder if that is the future that they're kind of going for. But it's going to be such a dramatic shift that this might be a lost year for them. A year that they were just close to making it to the Super Bowl, right? There were a Derrick Henry injury last year from potentially being in the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah, I mean they were definitely contending.
I mean, they were right there with him. I know he went out, but that's where I think, at least to me, when I'm looking at the season and I'm coming in and I'm thinking, Derrick Henry's going to come back. He could have came back last year. I should have been a little bit weary whenever they kind of held him like they did. And they were like, well, he's not quite ready yet, even though he was supposedly ready. I wonder if it was more of an injury than what they let on. And I would hate to see a guy's career end, like I said, more of like an injury show, which I feel like we have every year at the start of the year. We're talking about like, hey, these handful of dudes are injured and maybe they're changed forever. But that would be a guy to watch if you're looking for fantasy points. Hassan Haskins really doesn't have any yet, but he fits more of the Henry mold. So if Henry doesn't like bounce back, and maybe he just needs more reps, I don't know. Like, I'm not writing him off yet. I'm just saying that a lot of people are going to be pretty panicked. I would say that if you had the move, and I haven't done it, because I think my running back position is pretty stable right now, I would say try to get Hassan Haskins as a handcuff, because I think he will be the guy. Last year, remember, everyone was like kind of stumbling and bidding $80 on his backup when he went down, and then it was kind of like, hey, we're going to go by committee. I think last night you were able to see, okay, this is the direction they're going to go. They're just going to roll with Haskins if something happens. And who knows, maybe Malik Willis too, your guy. That'd be a fun team to watch. Would have to definitely be talking about them every week on the show, right?
Absolutely.
Who do you think has a better chance to play more this year, Willis or Pickett?
I would say probably Willis, just because I think if Tennessee finds themselves in a bit of a bind, they may look to just go with the rookie and see from the evaluation standpoint of what they're doing. Like, I think there's a little bit more stability around Tennessee, whereas with Pittsburgh, I feel like they don't know what the issue is. Is it Trubisky? Is it Canada? Is it the ownership? Is it the head coach? Like, where's the blame? There's a lot of things that people are trying to blame the lackluster start for Pittsburgh, but I think they just need to be a little bit more definitive with it.
How dare you blame the ownership, Matt? That's one of the best run teams. Everyone always says that. And then the fans know best. I saw a poll that I was going to bring in. I'm glad you brought that up, where they think that the one player that could come in and fix this team is Ben Roethlisberger. And so I'm like, so it is just quarterback? Because like you guys have had Ben for 3 or 4 years now, right? And how has he fixed it? Like, honestly, the difference was people were saying Le'Veon Bell too. I think he was number 2. I saw like actually 4 polls doing it, so that's my math guess, adding them together, that Le'Veon Bell would be number 2, because they've seen how he fixed Ben, where I think Ben's not successful without him. And without Ben, Le'Veon Bell, as we've seen, hasn't been successful either. So that was almost like a perfect marriage that they ruined themselves, where I think you need both guys. You can't like just take one without the other. And, oh man, how did I even forget to put this on the board, man? I guess my weekend's been too long and I forget, but have you heard that the Cowboys are making a push for Ben Roethlisberger? It was all over the wedding, Matt.
No.
You have a fall wedding, and you just try to watch Michigan win. People are throwing jabs your way like, hey, maybe they should have scheduled a real school. Do you not know how many women's national basketball championships that UConn has won, Matt? That is a real school. Right?
Fair enough.
You can't help it that your team doesn't win by 50 points. Like, could you imagine not winning your first 3 games by over 50 points a game? We'll get into the college talk later, but I did want to bring that up because people were saying, like, how's Michigan winning so bad? Did they not schedule anyone? I'm like, do you not know UConn? UConn probably sells a ton of merch because of their women's basketball. I'm like, they have Jim Mora Jr. He coached the 49ers, didn't he?
I feel like everyone has coached the 49ers.
Didn't he? Was he there for... I feel like he ruined my boy T.O. Which, did you see T.O. on Twitter making fun of Brett Favre? I definitely tweeted or retweeted it from Southbound Sports today. So go to Twitter and type up Southbound Sports, or just look for Southbound Sports, and you'll see it, where it was about some girl's like, "Hey, Brett, my food stamps are missing." And then it had Brett like cashing out all their food stamps because he took all that money from the charity or whatever he did. So I'm like, T.O.'s retweeting this stuff? Insane. I didn't even know T.O. hated Brett Favre. I was thinking, like, did they play together? I don't think so. But maybe it goes back to that old rivalry where
Pro Bowl,
the Packers and the 49ers hated each other, remember? The T.O.'s biggest catch was against the Packers in the playoffs that one year, where he almost got almost crushed in the end zone, right? And then was it their tight end recreated that a couple years ago when Harbaugh was the coach? Vernon Davis had like a similar catch, I think. But I think his was against the Saints or someone. I don't think it was also against Green Bay. That was before my Green Bay ownership, so my memory is kind of hazy on some of those Packer great playoff wins or losses, I guess. Right? So that's some extra off the field gossip by my boy T.O., who still runs like a 4.4, which is almost like insane. That he's like racing Tyreek Hill. And meanwhile, so you can't tell me that, hey, T.O. can't play in the league anymore, he's old. Yet he's beating Tyreek Hill, who then scores like 40 fantasy points. Right?
Trust me, I know. that was on my opponent's team this week. So my offense came alive, and then I ended up losing like 170 to 149.
I'll tell you, and people hate the fantasy talk, like whenever we talk about our own teams. They like when we talk about players, but not our own teams. So I'll mention my team here just to annoy them. I will say that I was looking at your points, and I was projected to beat you, but then I had that crappy Mariota outing, and I realized only half my team hit. But the week before, I had absolutely no one hit. So even though I went off this week, I think I had 1 point below you, is what I finished at. I'm still 8th in the league now because of my first week showing was so bad. So I would be the last spot in the playoffs, but this week I was like the 3rd highest score, and you would think that I'd be like, oh, I'm going to tie break all these fools, right? No. So Derrick Henry, Mariota, who else didn't show up for me? There's a couple of you guys, but it's pretty much half my team. Hooper, tight end. Come on, I'm going to have to cut you. Even who was the guy announcing the game? He's like, I'm looking for Hooper. And I'm like, is he injured? Like, did I miss something? No, they're just not throwing in the ball. Okay, got it. I should have just played Hassan Haskins at tight end if I could. He would have had like the same amount of points. Those are the 3 of the guys I remember off the top of my head from like only half my team showed up. So if the rest of the team would have showed up, who knows how high I would have scored. I need you guys to really show up, though, because I'm going to lose these tiebreakers. I got to make the playoffs. I'm not going to be the top gun anymore because the guy that beat you has won the league the past 2 years, I think. So, in the way we keep a record book, so it goes by championships, then regular season championships, which we call like division champs or whatever. And then it goes by playoff wins, I think, and then regular season win percentage. And the only reason I had the edge last year is I had one more playoff win. Coming in as an 8 seed is not going to get me another playoff win this year.
No.
It's not going to happen, especially if he's I think he's in first right now, so him winning the division or the regular season championship, the only way I'd be able to retain my top gun is if I went on a playoff run and won the actual championship. So I'm going to need a miracle here. I'm going to need some of the rest of the league to step up and actually, help me out. Help me keep the Top Gun hat this year because I'm really close to having to retire it. Right? I can't work to the draft if I'm not the Top Gun. Unless I put like a tape over it and I write like previous Top Gun. I think that would be funny. Could you imagine if I wore that to the draft? That's what I should do. Make a note of this. What time is this on this timestamp? I don't even know. Where's the live video thing? Well, I don't even know where my feed is. It doesn't say how long this has been going. I need his timestamp so I remember to put previous Top Gun, and then when I send out championship rings. Although maybe he won't win. Who knows? What else did you have? You want to talk about your fantasy team? We're going to talk about anything else. I don't care.
I guess I can talk a little bit about my fantasy team. We went from I fell for the bait of watching Cam Akers come back from that Achilles injury and thinking, why would you rush someone back to get all these touches in the playoffs? Like, surely he's going to be getting the ball like over and over. And then it comes out afterward, like Adam Schefter's like, yeah, could have told you they weren't going to play him at all. Like, valuable information that you could have told us before he got 1 point or 0 points.
Well, you know that he messages the general manager, so they don't want that information out there. He probably asked for a permission and they never gave it to him, so he didn't know if he should write it or not.
Yeah, well, duh, of course he's not. Like, well, the rest of us didn't know that.
That's funny. You also have your boy Jameis, which
that is an insane situation that he took a shot in week 1, and like all week you saw he was questionable. Then you find out that like he has he had a back injury and like several vertebrae were like cracked or broke or something.
People was even trying to play. What the heck?
Because he's a fighter.
Well, I'm not complaining because I wanted to bring this up on the show because I got to at least toot my own horn here. I took the Bucks defense number 1. I'm pretty sure I had the first defense off the board, right? I nominated him for $1, thinking, all right, this is going to get bid up, you know. Maybe I'll eat away at some other budgets. Nope. So I end up getting the Bucks defense for $1. And this past week, they threw up a 25-point for me, thanks to your boy James. So I'm like, they're not going to go ahead and like try to get the defense. So I looked it up because I'm like, I distinctively remembering the next defense off the board being the Steelers going for $13, and they landed 2 points this week. So that just shows you, don't be a homer in fantasy. Just look at the projections, man. And if anything, I could have put the Bills up number 1, but I thought, well, I think I might be able to sneak the Bills in later because people, they really hate the Bills, like in the area, even though they don't want to admit it. Like one guy told me over the weekend that he can't wait till the Bills choke this season away, even though they've clearly looked like the best team in the league by far. And I'm like, wow, the Bills are really great. And I'm like, you're thinking they're going to lose? Like,
yeah, unless they get hit with some bad injuries, I think they're the team to beat right now.
Yeah, they're like toying with the other people, right? So I'm like, man, that's some confidence that you think they're going to choke. Like, it's not like it's the Browns, right? Where there's 100 ways that their team's going, or they could fall apart. But looking at this, the Bills' defense, clearly number 1, like I had said. They're averaging 20 points. The Bucks defense at number 2, they're averaging 18.5. Great move by me. And then the Steelers are in third, though, with 12 points per game on the season. So even though they paid premium, you could have got the Bills. I'm going to look and see real quick what my Top Gun rival right now has the Bills. He paid $7. So he paid $7. I paid $1 for the number 2, so I definitely got the value there. And then someone paid $13 for the Steelers' number 3 defense. 4 is Jacksonville, and no one even has them. So hurry up, Matt. Claim the Jacksonville defense right now. They're at 11.5 averaging per game, and they're the 4th overall defense. And actually, no one even has the Falcons. Falcons are number 5, and then the Eagles are number 7. I always like the Eagles defense. I feel like they're always available. Maybe it's because we have a Pennsylvania-based league and everyone hates the Eagles on our side of the state. But I always pick them up. And then remember the year I won the championship is because the Eagles were getting me like 20 points a week. Like they honestly carried my team. Them and David Johnson and then a bunch of slubs I had. And I picked them up like right before playoffs. Because I was like, well, what's the difference? The Eagles were getting like either positive like by 20 or negative by like 8. And I figured I'm going to ride or die, baby. It's only 3 weeks. So flip a coin. Are you going to get a negative points or are you going to get a positive? And so I always like to see them available just in case something happens to the Bucs defense. Which, let's be honest, the Bucs defense is based on Tom Brady. Tom Brady's smashing Microsoft tablets on the sideline. And even though they won, it's like, what are you doing?
Well, he's not going to be at practice tomorrow.
Who cares? They keep saying that he's having, like, off-the-field issues with his wife. And I'm thinking, does that matter to anyone? Like, you don't know Tom Brady.
People that bet on the Bucs, I bet, care.
We don't know Tom Brady. You don't know his wife. Do you really need to know how their relationship's going? Like, I never once woke up and was like, I hope Tom Brady didn't argue with his wife last night.
You know you did.
But I have woken up and said, I hope Tom Brady didn't, like, sleep on his arm wrong, right? Wake up with a pinched nerve. I'm like, I'm worried about that. I'm not worried if he's fighting with his family. That might incentivize him to practice more, right?
Well, clearly, because he retired and spent some time at home, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm going back to work."
And all the reporters are like, "Well, once she tells him that he's done playing, he's done." Like, yeah, I'm sure if she decides in the middle of the Super Bowl, like, "You're done," he's gonna say, "Yes, honey," and then just leave the Super Bowl. That would never happen. I don't think it's ever happened in the history of the NFL where a guy just left in the middle of the season because his wife told him no.
There was a guy that just recently just quit, just pieced out at halftime and left.
Yeah, when was that? That wasn't this year?
No, it wasn't this year.
Wasn't it like the COVID year though? Maybe.
Might have been.
I don't know. Some of the guys, like, I wonder, like, if you're having off the field issues. And then sometimes, like, you need a good home situation. So, like, if, like, Antonio Brown maybe had, like, someone to rein him in off the field, maybe he's still playing, you know? But, like, Tom Brady, I feel like it doesn't matter, right? Most of the guys, you don't even know who their wife is. Like, the only wife I've ever seen, really, is, like, Tom Brady's Patrick Mahomes. They always make a big deal of showing her for whatever reason, and his brother. So it's almost like, hey, you have never shown me any other Chiefs, but I definitely know what Mahomes' wife and brother look like. For no reason. I couldn't tell you one thing about Kelsey, though. Does he have kids, a wife? Who knows? But I know Patrick Mahomes' brother looks like. That's all you need to know about the people out there. Oh, man. I think that's all I have for the NFL this week. Do you have anything else?
I think that's about it for the NFL.
I mean, my Packers bounced back. Last week I didn't even talk about the Packers. I was so disappointed. They got killed by the Vikings, and then, of course, they beat the Bears out. And they're right there, and I'm wondering, like, I did send you that thing where they're trying to say that the AFC and NFC East have the best records by division. Well, yeah, of course they do. The Packers have played interdivision. So they played the Vikings and they played the Bears. So that means that at least those couple of teams are 1-1 against each other, right? No matter what happens. You can't have a positive record unless you tie. And then, of course, their division's 4-4. I was like, did they all play each other? Like, how do you know? Okay, yeah, we get it. The NFC East looks like they might be all right because the Eagles and the Giants sneaking them in there. But I think the Commanders lost to... Oh, no, they lost to the Lions. That's right. Because Hutchinson had a bunch of sacks in the first half. He had like 3 sacks, I think. And he looked good, dude. He was doing his like power move. And then he like was running around. I mean, for a couple of the sacks were kind of just like coverage sacks because they were like there forever. But he's able to get it done.
Yeah, but you got to be careful. You don't want to celebrate too much. You'll end up tearing your ACL. Don't
celebrate at all. Do you think Harbaugh would let people celebrate, Matt? Actually, we have some of the best celebrations. Remember the Paul Bunyan?
Yeah, they're not used to celebrating.
No, remember the Paul Bunyan? And then some of the other ones, like, yeah, we have some great celebrations. I don't think Harbaugh really cares. So hopefully he has enough celebration practice that it won't matter. Let's see. Let me check my notes. Make sure they don't have anything else for the NFL before we get into some college stuff, which I don't think I do have anything else. Oh no, Cole Beasley got signed by the Buccaneers, right? Or they're talking about signing him?
Yeah,
that's because
so that he has that Edelman quota he needs to fill.
Well, I hope so, because I had Godwin, and so then I was wondering, like, do I pick up Cole Beasley, right, for my fantasy team? And it's like Tom Brady spreads the ball around so much that I don't even know. Like, I don't know other people that are in this scenario. Like, do we go for that? I'm still torn on my quarterback situation because Godwin's now questionable. And so, like, is he going to even be productive now if Beasley's coming in to eat some of those, like, lower percentage or whatever, lower attempts just away from him? I don't know. But that's where I'm at. Anything else you had for the NFL? I know I asked you a couple times, but I'm ready to switch.
Yeah, let's switch.
All right. I brought up here the coaches poll because you keep sending me the coaches poll every Sunday. Is it out first? Is that why?
Yeah.
You're like, hey, you're wrong. Coaches poll came out. I'm like, who cares about the coaches poll? The coaches poll is so dumb that it makes 0 sense, Matt. And I'm not saying that Florida State's not ranked. They're in the same spot. They'd be like 27th in both. And to be fair, I said if they beat Louisville, they should have lost to Louisville. Florida State had no business even winning that game.
They won.
Louisville's coach was so dumb that he's like, the announcers are saying Florida State has a 6'7" guy. They kept a 5'8" or whatever that guy is on him and let him score like 3 touchdowns. And they made no change at all. It was like watching Don Brown coach out there, Matt. I'm like, is Ohio State going to run another slant here? Yeah, of course they are. Did Don Brown make an adjustment? Oh, no. And it's like, how is Michigan even in this game with Don Brown on defense? That's what it was like watching Louisville blow that game. Florida State had the one guy that was so much bigger than everyone else, and they were like, should we rotate? Should we change corners? Nah. I even called when they threw the fade to him. They were like, oh, they're going to run it. I was watching a game with someone. They're like, oh, they're going to run. I'm like, no, they're going to throw a fade to that guy. He's going to score a touchdown. And Florida State's going to win this game. Like, it's pretty much, I don't even, if I was at the game, I'd probably just left and said, like, this is going to happen. And Louisville had, like, they even had 100 chances to win. They're missing field goals. It's like, what are you doing? So Florida State could be ranked, but that did them no favors. And honestly, I hate to see, like, Travis go down, quarterback, for those that aren't familiar, because I know a lot of people probably don't watch Florida State. You have to, like, only have Tallahassee East Network or something to see their games. But maybe that's a blessing in disguise for Norvell, right? Switch quarterbacks because you have to, and then go to a guy that you actually recruited that, like, kind of fits your style, right? Because the offense was 100% different with him than Travis. And I wondered if Travis was holding him back. It was almost like when Scott Frost went with, like, Martinez. And people were like, okay, I don't know why the heck the Alexa thing is going off like that. But I will say, like, I don't know why Scott Frost stuck with Martinez. People kept saying, Martinez is still quarterback? It's like, yeah, because Scott Frost doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't fit. He should have gave him a firm handshake and said, hey, thanks for us. There are a lot of like power running schools out there that you can go play with. Just go. I need to start with my guys. He didn't start doing that till, like, this year. And then it's like, or maybe it was last year. I don't even know who the quarterback. He was there forever, so I don't even know. Right? Well, and then it's like, oh, we don't have anyone to go. Norvell, on the other hand, is like, we've had a couple of lucky wins. Now our quarterback comes out, and holy crap, our offense is not working. So I'm like, I don't know what to think of Florida State now. But how do you feel after that game? I know I talked all over it.
Well, I had to go back and rewatch it because it was the Friday night game. So
I know I didn't realize it was Friday night, and when I got after, like, the wedding rehearsal or whatever, and I got to a place we were staying, and they had the game on, I was like, wait, is this a historical game? Like, ESPN Classics showing us a random Florida State Louisville game, like 2-0 Florida State versus 1-1 Louisville. And then I was like, oh, wait a second. I think this is real, isn't it? Why is it on Friday? They took the Big Ten spot of like, hey, let's have these stupid Friday games that no one watches. And now that's the ACC move. They used to be for Maryland, Matt, and Illinois. Not Florida State.
Well, this game has typically been somewhat of a trap game for Florida State because they had the Lamar Jackson years, and even last year with Cunningham, like to see the growth of this Florida State team, like last year's team, 100% would have found a way to lose that game. They would have had penalties. They would have had all kinds of unnecessary stuff, like would have dropped the ball in key situations, and they made the plays that they needed. Like, it's the Jared Verse, who was the hero of the LSU game. He got injured. One of their other linemen got injured. Jordan Travis got injured. It was like, at the end of our game, I pulled up just to see if I could get any updates. I didn't have any cell service at the play at my game, so we're trying to, like, as I'm getting back into Claysburg, like getting updates on my phone, and it's like, oh, Travis is injured. This is going to be bad. And then I'm seeing the highlights from Rodemaker, and it was like, all right, maybe we're going to be all right.
Well, like I said, I thought for sure, hey, they need to make a move. I had a really Scott Frost vibe about him where I thought Florida State could end up 5-7. Hell, they still might. We don't know. I don't know how good Louisville is, and their coaching seems horrendous, which is something, because isn't their coach the guy from App State that really built the program?
Yeah, Satterfield.
Yeah, so it's like, all right, well, maybe. I've never seen a guy, like I said, the only defensive guy I remember not making an adjustment is like Don Brown being too stubborn. And then after the game saying like, well, that's what we practiced. We practiced getting toasted? Awesome. Awesome. And it seemed like only like certain teams would take advantage. Like Penn State never really took advantage. I mean, I guess the one year they really did with Saquon. But like Michigan State would just take advantage, and Ohio State. Like other teams would be like, nah, we're content with letting Don Brown just do his thing and hold us down. It's like, just make one of the adjustments that another team is easily showing you how to do. And that's what I thought about like Louisville doing. Like, you have the guy, roll the safety over the top. You could probably intercept some of those balls. Like, I don't know what you're doing. And like, if you're a Louisville fan, you have to just be frustrated because your team, honestly, I don't know what their schedule is. They might not win a game. And I'm saying that as like in a kind way.
Well, the funny thing is in
the ACC, I mean, because I know they already had the one win.
The cornerback from Louisville, Brownlee, he was the cornerback that was at Florida State last year that got toasted against Jacksonville State and cost him that game. So he went and like said, "Oh, I have this game circled on my calendar," and then proceeded to get burnt for like 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. So
that's where, I mean, my only worry is like Syracuse killed them 31-7. And so like Florida State still has to play the Syracuse team that's not ranked, whatever, but they're 3-0. Miami that's ranked, we know they didn't really do good against A&M after they lost App State. And then Clemson, NC State, Wake Forest that are all ranked, and Florida that's ranked. So, like, when I say, hey, they could go be like 5-7, like, I honestly mean it. Because, like, you could lose to Boston College and drop all your ranked games. Actually, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, you have 5 ranked games. That would be, to get 7 losses at this point, would have been Boston College and Syracuse, losing both of them. I say, right now, my new prediction for Florida State after that, I'll call it a gutsy win. I think if they stick with Rodemaker, I'm thinking around like 6 or 7 wins. I think they get a couple more. Like, I don't think they're going to lose to like Georgia Tech or anything. And they also still have the Louisiana game, which Louisiana has been sneakily good. I just want to see more growth from them. Who knows? Maybe they keep pulling a Craig Krenzel and they keep winning all these close games, right? And then where are you? In the ACC championship game or something? Like, I don't know how far they can go with this team. I think they have some glaring holes But in terms of like the ACC itself, I kind of don't know what to think.
Well, they do, but it's the steps that they need to get the recruits. Like when you're looking at the recruiting battles, Florida State was getting crushed in a lot of the recruiting stuff because they weren't able to show they're developing players, that they're getting people to be in positions to move on to the NFL or to even just be competitive on a national stage. And when you're looking at some of that stuff, like this team clearly has made growth. And you look at they were able to take guys from the transfer portal and develop them into NFL talent. And so when you have that, now you start to build on that a little bit more. And now, okay, well, our record wasn't good last year. Our record has improved now this year. Like we're taking steps in the right direction. You can be that recruit that finalizes everything, you know. And I think that's where you finally have that opportunity to take that next step.
That's why I really wanted to see Notre Dame choke against California, even though I wasn't watching the game. Because Freeman's been selling hope, and they have like they had the number one recruiting class. I don't know if they've lost anyone yet. But when you start 0-2 with the loss to Marshall, and then you're going to have Clemson and now USC that are both top 10, where at the beginning of the year, I thought maybe Notre Dame only loses to Ohio State. Now it's like, hey, I hope they go like 6-6 or worse. Because like BYU's ranked. I know they just lost to Oregon, but they had already beat Baylor. So they can't be that bad. And then North Carolina, you don't know what you're getting with them. They play Boston College and that Syracuse team I mentioned. And Stanford didn't do too bad against USC. So it's like, could all these teams beat Notre Dame? That would be awesome.
But, I've been joking with you about Florida State not being ranked because the majority of the teams, if you beat an SEC school, you get ranked. And then when you follow it up with a second win, that usually leads to a ranking, especially when a lot of those other teams are losing in front of you. Like typically that, but I know the kind of luck that Florida State has, though they'll finally get pulled into the top 25 and then proceed to lose the following week, and they'll fall so far out of contention that they could win the rest of the games this season and still wouldn't crack the top 25 again.
Well, see, that's why I brought up the coaches poll being just insane, because on one hand, you have all these teams saying like Michigan hasn't played anyone. We don't even know if they're top 10. And yet, for whatever reason, the coaches poll decided that the UConn win was enough to have them jump Clemson. And Clemson, also 3-0, also has been winning by blowouts. So it's like, what made you change your mind? Like, what would be the reason that you just randomly flip the two? And then, let me see what else. So then, Michigan State gets killed by Washington. The coaches poll has Michigan State ranked 21, Washington ranked 24th. The AP doesn't even have Michigan State ranked. How do you justify keeping them ahead of Washington, coaches poll? It makes no sense. Like it's like so insane that they're like, what do we have to do here to go ahead and make like some moves? Like the other one would be like Baylor and BYU. I know BYU got blown out by Oregon, but like you can at least slot them differently. Like the AP has Baylor ahead of BYU. They're 17-19. The coaches poll has BYU at 23. They have Baylor at 17 ahead of Oregon, the team that beat BYU. It's like it doesn't make sense. Why do you have Baylor so high? Oregon in the AP should at least be ahead of Baylor. I understand if you think Baylor had a bad day against BYU. Don't put Baylor just randomly ahead of Oregon. Oregon's only losses to Georgia, the number one team by far. Just rank them higher. It makes no sense. I don't understand how they have some of these teams like just moved around on the coach's side. But that's just me. It makes no sense. It's like, all right, hey, yeah, we're barely going to rank Washington, but definitely don't. I mean, we know they killed Michigan State. Michigan State's passing defense looked awful, but we can't really have them that high. Come on, guys. What are we doing? So that's my move. I think Florida State, for sure, they play Boston College this week. If they win, they'll be ranked. If not, then you can come on the show and yell at me.
Well, and that's one of those games that has typically been a stumbling point as of late, because Boston College just plays a different style than a lot of the other teams that they're playing.
Well, they're 1-2. So, like, that's why I had said, like, maybe they'd be stumbling against, like, Notre Dame and, like, Florida State fodder. Probably maybe NC State, too, you know. But I think some of these teams in the ACC, it makes it so hard this year because we don't know how good they are. And, like Boston College lost to Rutgers. And then Virginia Tech hasn't really looked that good. They lost to Old Dominion. But then they beat Boston College. And so it's like, all right, well, what am I looking at here? NC State almost loses to ECU. They beat Texas Tech. And I'm like, maybe Texas Tech just stinks. Now they play UConn this week. So it'd be a good test. Michigan plays Maryland. And then NC State plays UConn, the same team. If NC State absolutely kills UConn, then maybe Michigan's not that good, especially if they struggle with Maryland, you know? If Michigan kills Maryland and UConn keeps it close against NC State, then I'm like, all right, Michigan might be actually better than what people think. I mean, UConn has a win. They did beat Central Connecticut. I mean, that's a nobody school. They got blown out by Syracuse, but I had mentioned that, yeah, they got blown out by Syracuse. Syracuse also blew out Louisville and beat Purdue. Maybe Syracuse is just good. Right?
Possibly.
I mean, it's like people are like doing the gymnastics in their mind. They're like, Michigan has to be bad. UConn can't be good. Oh, but Syracuse can't be good though either. It makes no sense. It makes no sense.
You win, and then you get top 247 linebacker Blake Nicholson commits to FSU over Oregon and UCLA. Like, why did he commit to FSU over Oregon and UCLA? Because they're winning, and the other two schools are not.
Hey, Oregon is.
No.
They just beat what's-it-face. I just said that. They just got killed by Georgia. But everyone gets killed by Georgia. That's why people were also mad that Jim Mora Jr. said that Michigan has the best defense that he's seen. It's like Georgia's. People were like, why is he comparing them to Georgia? It's like, well, he just got killed by them. Where they didn't even have like a first down in like the first half or something crazy. So it's like, well, who else are you going to compare them to? Yeah, that's a tough defense like Rutgers, you know? Like, no. That's insane. He wants to make himself look good. So of course he's going to compare them to the number one defense. He couldn't do anything. Doesn't mean Michigan's defense is good. We honestly don't know. Let's see. Anything else you want to hit before we wrap up the main show, and then we'll do the extended show?
No.
All right, so thanks for listening. You can get the full show if you go to patreon.com/Southbound Sports. I think we're starting to get everything clicking. I'm going to start promoting it more. I just wanted to make sure things were rolling and we weren't really messing stuff up. You can get the live show there. You can also get the extended podcast. There's a feed. I think the dates might be a little messed up. I'm a little bit behind on them, so you can get them there. And then, like I said, I'm still trying to think about throwing up the bonus episode for the draft. It just ended up being 3 hours, so I haven't been able to cut it down yet. So I'm still making edits there. It's a bonus thing, so it'll be coming for free. It'll just be extra on the Southbound Sports feed. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.